Good day and welcome back to another Dbz Dokkan battle video. In this video we're going to be taking a look at, how you can no item the run against good old Zamasu. So Zamasu is probably the easiest of the latest three stages to no item run, largely due to two factors. Firstly, Zamasu is a tech type only phase, which means units that have a int typing have an innate advantage, which means if you build your team predominantly int orientated, you tend to have a pretty good time. Secondly, Zamasu does not have any required gimmicks, so Zamasu doesn't really do too much outside of raw power, which does kind of make sense considering he is, strictly speaking, a unit that thrives on raw power. But what that means is we don't have to bring something special. For example, when you take on the Zamasu Red Zone stage, you have to make sure that you can get through the first phase. When you take on the Trunks stage, you have to be prepared to either delay his first phase or take on the tougher physical phase early on. So with Zamasu, it's pretty straightforward. Now, of course, obviously that doesn't just mean that it's easy. A lot of the times it can be quite challenging. So making sure that you build your team correctly is also going to assist you. In terms of the team build that we've gone with, pretty simple stuff. So what we've got here is we've got the int Zamasu and his EZA, a unit that's very good in this situation. There's two reasons why. So firstly, he has damage reduction. Secondly, he has a type advantage. Both of these things come together quite nicely and give him a sizable damage reduction ability. Secondly as well, he also heals on his super, and I've built him full additional, which means we get most times double healing, which is really good. That equates to about 14% health back per rotation that he's on. That doesn't necessarily heal up all the damage we take, but it does tend to help us out quite a bit. So int Zamasu is pretty good, and we also fill up our team with int Mai. Int Mai is a very solid support who also has the added benefit again of type advantage, but she allows us to see when the super attacks are, which you can see me doing now, and after she fires a super attack at the opposition, she has a 70% dodge chance. So yes, we are leaning on RNG to avoid this super attack, but for the most part Mai does do a very solid job at being incredibly reliable. 70% is kind of at that threshold whereby things are pretty reliable to work on, whereas anything below, I'd say 50%, you're kind of really gambling. Then of course we also have Gowasu and Zamasu, or it always happens. Zamasu and Gowasu are very good. Not only do they also apply a huge defensive buff to the rest of the rotation, but they themselves also have 50% evasion. Now theirs is a lot less than Mai, so I don't tend to use them as a way to kind of mitigate super attacks, because they're a lot less reliable. That 20% difference does equate to quite a bit, especially if you do go for any dodge equip or dodge chances on units. So for me, definitely more a push towards using Mai as a solid unit, but your rotations need to be flexy. You have to have the ability to constantly push units off and on rotation as you can see fit. Like here, ideally, I would want to put Zamasu alongside Zamasu. However, I'm not, because Trunks is much more susceptible to being taken out by a super attack in that third slot. So I'm going to place int merge Zamasu there, and he's actually one of the most crucial components to this run, and I'll discuss why in a minute. So merge Zamasu is, I'm not going to say the best unit for this run, but he is a very exceptional unit for this run. So the big thing with int merge Zamasu that he brings that makes him so crucial is the fact that he nullifies unarmed super attacks. So Zamasu's super attack that he fires, this guy can nullify a lot of the time, and counter as well, which means that essentially after his normal attacks, after he supers, he barely takes any damage, as you can see there, I mean, he took around 30,000 from 3 supers, which is nothing. And when he does get supered, there's a high chance he's not going to take an effect from it, which is very, very crucial. Then we have the AGL LR, Super Saiyan, God, SS, Goku, and Vegeta. Obviously, incredibly crucial units that are very, 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 very powerful. So, one of the things that makes them so good is they have their 4-turn guard, they have their evasion, which gets them through the early bits and actually really mitigates the amount of damage they can take. But then we generally do get ourselves into the situation whereby we are able to transform into Vegito. Now, transforming into Vegito is an incredibly strong ability. It basically sets us up to really succeed, because not only does Vegito do some pretty good damage, but Vegito also has the added benefit of being able to boost the rest of the rotation's defense, which is something that's very crucial. When we take a look at this rotation, for example, that in future Gohan in the second slot, he is tanky. He's going to be quite tanky against Zamasu. However, he does have his problems. And so what happens is this boost from good old Vegito really helps to cement him tanking exceptionally well. And that's kind of how it works. Essentially, our team build for the most part relies on this fact. And it's kind of set in this functionality that the team is going to do what it needs to do in most of the slots, but it's a flexi team. You have to be willing to move your units as best you can. You need to make sure that Zamasu and Goasu are not facing super attacks as best you can, or multiple attacks, because their dodge is less reliable. As you can see here, even with the defensive boost, they still took by far and away the most damage out of this whole rotation. So definitely something very, very difficult to deal with. You can see here as well how I'm trying to use the Trunks active skill to really set up a good standing rotation. But you'll see that I take the option here to give my 1 strength orb and then give Zamasu all the int orbs, healing off the int orbs, knowing or backing the fact that we are going to, settle ourselves into a strong position with the damage from Trunks and from the setup from Mai, knowing that after Super, Zamasu is going to be strong enough to just about tank the attacks from Zamasu, Fusion Zamasu, and that Mai is better off dodging the second place attack. And the reason why I did this is because I took the guaranteed fact that even though we would be hit by Zamasu's super attack, we would survive. And the guaranteed survival was better than gambling the run at this point on sticking Mai in the 3rd slot. Yes, we would have mitigated our damage completely. We also would have been in a huge bit of doo-doo. So you can see that, and that's kind of where I really kind of tried to seal this functionality. Gohan as well, you can see here in terms of orb selection, I try to make sure that I prioritize the int orbs on Zamasu rather, more for 2 factors. The healing from Zamasu is far more important, and the defensive prowess of Zamasu after Super is far better than it is with Gohan, at least at 55%. Gohan, by the way, is an absolute rock, but at 55%, Zamasu is going to carry me a lot more. I have 3 dupes in him, and he's already proven that he can tank really, really well. Obviously, we're reliant next on him getting supers, and that's something that's very crucial to his ability to tank. So there is still an RNG factor, but with my build for Zamasu being predominantly additional, the chances of him firing off those additional supers is relatively high. So now we have that security in knowing this is going to give us the biggest chance at surviving through this rotation. And you can see here, we continue to tank, we get a nice dodge there, we get to tank pretty well, and now we get the absolute privilege of finishing Zamasu off with the Trunks active skill, which for me is probably the best way to ever end a no item run. And that's going to be it from me. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like, and yeah, let me know if you need any help with the stage. I have done multiple builds on it now, all the missions done, but let me know if you are still struggling. And yeah, but that's gonna be it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like, and I'll see you next time. Bye.